Hello and welcome to the third episode of the 8 Cube Circus podcast. I am your host, Smiles. I have been a top infinite player playing mostly Surfer and Victoria Hand. I am joined by Denish, who is a Hela one trick and one of the most notorious one tricks in the entire game. He's also participating in a tournament this weekend to show off his one trick prowess. Also participating in that tournament is Xenaid, a former Sauron one trick turned into a bad deck enjoyer. We are all here to discuss different topics in Marvel Snap from the high infinite perspective and make it accessible to the entire player base. Now, we're going to begin with a conversation about Denish Hela and how it needs to survive, sort of a continuation of this topic from the end of our last podcast. So, Denish, when you are ready, take it away.
Yeah, I want to start by talking about the meta we're entering a little bit. I think it's kind of crazy. Um, Balance team, I haven't seen the correct OTA yet. We're recording it before it's come out, I believe. But it seems like the route they're going is anti-tech and more pro-combo. And what's scary about that is Hela's always really good against tech, but it's really, really hard against combo. And so the puzzles that I've been solving in deck building have been like, okay, I need to deal with massive Nimrod. I need to deal with 30 power Brood. How can I deal with those things without sacrificing the consistency of the deck? Without, like, because I've only got so many flex slots, where the Supergiant is one flex slot, and that worked for a while because it was mostly like Nimrod combo stuff. But Supergiant doesn't really do anything against Surfer, Cerebro, all those decks. So I've started running Eliath, and another change I've made recently is I've swapped out the Odin because I found I actually need more power, and I'm running a Grandmaster. And the Grandmaster is nice because it lets you double blink more easily because you can blink on 5 and then play like a Grandmaster on the blink to have her blink herself plus a Jubilee on the last turn, which is a nice little line for consistency. And if the Jubilee pulls the blink, then the blink will blink herself again. So if you've got a bunch of 6s in your deck, you can kind of get yourself out of that situation. But yeah, I think it's very, very interesting that they're taking it more towards the combo-y, less mid-rangey, more way over the top style of decks balance-wise. I want to know what you guys think about that with Human Torch First Steps being basically a 310.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's really hard to predict, like, the amount of power in the meta. I think it goes to, like, show, like, from Fastos even being good, right? Like, Fastos is in a playable state, whereas, like, before he wasn't. And I think it's just, like, in the meta, it's just, like, decks that put out a ton of power. Whether that's, like, through V-Hand or whether that's through, like, buffing. It just feels like it's really easy. I think it's, like, not generic power, but I think the decks that just, like, put out a bunch of green power, like, really near the top. And I think, like, in order to beat that, you have to be doing really unfair things. It feels really hard to play, like, honest decks that aren't getting discounts. I was dealing with the meta by playing Soren at first, mainly just to discount. I also ran Eliath to, like, try to beat their Shang-Chi's and such. I was getting cheap discounts through Zabu and Mr. Fantastic and Surge, getting all my cards, like, super discounted, so I could be playing, like, a Scar plus an Eliath on the last turn. That was, like, kind of the game plan I was going for. And I was like, okay, if they shame me, they die. But now it seems like the green power decks have, like, stabilized to get bigger than Sauron, which is really annoying for me. Because it's hard for me to run, like, Shadow King since Sauron is getting prio a lot of the time. And I can't freaking predict how much power they have in their hand. Because Fantastic just is, like, buffing Mr. Sinister, Brood all game. And I don't know, like, you had a problem dealing with Gwenpool as well, right, Denish?
Yeah, Gwenpool and all those green card and hand cards are really tough to deal with because there isn't really a tech against it. Shadow King is not a real card. Like, 2-2 is just not it, I'm gonna be honest. For, like, big decks. For small decks, I'm sure it's fine with, like, small ball stuff, but for your Hela, your Sauron, it's probably good in Morgan, right? Have you tried it in Morgan?
It's really awkward in Morgan, because you want to, like, buff your own cards, right? Like, your deck is green power, So it's like hard enough to find a Shadow King lane on its own. Plus, like those
Yeah.
decks run Jug Cosmo, right? So like, what are you gonna do? But
Yeah,
yeah,
there's not really
Miz.
space for it.
Yeah, so I sort of wanted to add on this as the person that likes to play the green power decks. I sort of began my top infinite as a surfer one trick, and I've since moved mainly to Victoria Hand, although I have been playing more surfer lately. I think Human Torch First Steps is not broken, but I do think he's very good. Just being able to put out a ton of consistent power is extremely strong. Also, he's extremely good with Gwenpool because if you don't play him on three, normally he's lacking. But with Gwenpool, with you can stack like even one buff on him. All buffs are basically doubled. So a buff on him is basically an unshangable. If you buff him once and then surfer him, you basically have an unshangable 312, which is extremely powerful. I know that I used to play one of my favorite lists this year was a Sauron Surfer hybrid list before the Sauron nerf, where I was utilizing Starbrand as just a massive 3 cost. Torch sort of feels like a better Shaw in the sense that he's pretty much as big as Shaw, but he also gains power every turn you play him early, and he also is not shangable, which is Shaw's biggest weakness, and the reason why me and Heart of the Cards began cutting him from surfer lists that he was previously seen to be a staple in. So I definitely think that Human Torch First Steps is basically what if Sebastian Shaw gained power every turn and didn't have the crippling Shang-Chi issue. I think that card is very strong. And I also think that the metagame dynamic it's going to lead to is that Surfer now has another proactive three, which was the thing it was lacking. I mean, Surfer has a lot of threes it wants to play late. I mean, you kind of want to play the Brood late with Shadow King being so prevalent. You want to get buffs on the Brood before you play it. You want to play Surfer last, obviously. You want to be playing your Juggernaut late. You don't. The only real proactive threes you have in the game that we're seeing some play were stuff like Mobius, Cassandra Nova, Fastos, Captain Carter, that kind of stuff was sort of seeing the proactive play. Now with Torch as such a good proactive play, I think it solves one of the main issues with Surfer, which was that it did not have enough proactive threes that it wanted to get onto the field. Now that that issue has been solved, I don't see anything stopping this deck from becoming the best deck in the format. And I definitely think that the combo style of balance that Snap is looking at is definitely favorable towards Surfer as a deck that really has a ton of points avenues. I mean, you can even explore the Absorbing Man builds of Surfer with a deck that has as much points as Surfer on its high rolls. I really think that this combo style is going to tend well to Surfer, especially because I believe it is the best Cosmo Juggernaut deck in the format, which I think is the most impactful combo of two tech cards. Cosmo really stops them from interacting with you at all, and Juggernaut is just 3 cost win a lane in a deck where you can fit a second 3 like a Cosmo or a Surfer on 6. I really think that Surfer is extremely well positioned right now, and if I was trying to learn a deck to climb either to infinite or really high infinite, I would definitely put all of your hours right now into Silver Surfer. I think it's very strong. As for the other decks in the format that are utilizing this combo, I definitely think the Ramp Victoria hand list that we covered in last podcast is definitely a strong contender. I think it's the best Shadow King deck, and it can effectively leverage Prio against Surfer, which I believe no longer really has the room for Killmonger in a sense because it's a Cosmo Jug deck instead of like a Killmonger Surfer on 6 deck. So I definitely think that if you can play the and realize the matchup Victoria hand against Surfer, you can definitely beat it and go over the top of it because you're also generating a ton of points. But I do think Surfer is the best position deck right now.
Yeah, I think the problem is like with the release of Fantastic and the release of Human Torch. Like I'm not just talking about Surfer in general, but I think the green power decks now just have so many things to hit that they don't really care. Like I think there's so many multipliers of the buffs in the meta, right? Like people are running these green power multiplier cards even in just random like tech shenanigan decks. Like they're playing Brood, Galacta, Gwenpool, Shang. Like who cares? Because they have enough power. If like Fantastic or Gwenpool or Fastos, if that hits a Sinister one time, if it hits a Brood one time, all of a sudden like your +2 became a +6, and the problem is that the +6 your opponent doesn't even know about, right? Like even before Fantastic was out, I think I had the best Cosmo Jug list, which was the Morgan Le Fay Cosmo Jug list. But now I can't compete because like Surfer is way more flexible with the discounts, and it uses the discounts a lot better. You can just dump power on the board. Like you could even premature Surfer at this point if you have Cosmo and Jug in your hand. So it's really tough to just counteract this deck because the green power decks like they're really good at getting priority right now as well. I don't think there's anything that gets priority better if their buffs hit just the right cards.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out a way to deal with green power cards, because the only real tech we have is Shadow King, and it's really hard for them to even design a card that deals with that, right? Like, how do you design a tech card that interacts with the opponent's hidden hand, or interacts with their cards once they hit the field if they're buffed? Is that like the direction they go? My thought is, well, the wrong way to do it would do something like
Stardust.
your opponent's cards cannot gain power. That would be awful. They'd never do that. Surely they'd never just disable an archetype like that. There's a little bit of foreshadowing for, I think it's September with Stardust. But I think maybe a card that's like, I don't even know, when your opponent's cards gain power, this gains the same amount of power. So you just have like and it's like a 3 cost.
Like a reverse
You just,
Clea kind of effect.
yeah, like not even reverse Clea, just almost like Super Scroll for green power, where it just kind of takes all of the power and adds it to itself. Where your opponent still gets the power, and like Brood is still scaling, but you get to have a really big card, and that forces Surfer to almost run like a Shang or a Shadow King, which will shave off quite a bit of that power. Because right now they're so big, they don't actually need to dedicate any deck building to dealing with stuff, because they kind of just deal with everything by accident. And if they don't, their tech cards are also 3 cost cards. So it's like, oh, well, you wanted to run that anyways. Like the Red Guardian, sometimes they'll probably come in. The Juggernaut and Cosmo, which Jug isn't a tech card, but Cosmo is. Where Surfer is just, I don't think it's the best positioned. I think that's V-Hand, because V-Hand has a lot of tools to deal with everything, whereas Surfer can still die to like Uber tech. But there isn't really much Uber tech, to be honest. I don't know how they solve the problem other than just direct nerfs. Because buffing everything else isn't even gonna work. Like there's not really a way to buff an Agatha deck. Like you can't. Just homebrewing is so much harder. That's all.
It's funny that you mentioned Agatha specifically with the new card coming out next month. Also, I've got some bad news for you, Denish. You've only got 20 days until Stardust comes out.
Yeah. I thought it was no. I think I
It's
have longer.
it's
Isn't it
August.
September 4th?
I just looked it up. It's August 5th.
Oh jeez. Okay.
So that's going to be very fun for you. But
For
anyways,
anyone who doesn't know,
continue.
Stardust is a 4/7 that says, I don't know the exact text, but it's basically neither you nor your opponent can add cards to the board unless they're played or moved. Wait, does it say moved?
Yeah, it does say
Yeah.
That's not adding a card to the board.
it
What are they
says
talking
it
about?
Stardust for the listeners. Stardust text is a 4/7 ongoing. Cards can't be added to locations except by playing or moving them. So yes, it works on both sides. So
Wait,
you
it's
could do
ongoing?
it's
It is
ongoing.
ongoing.
So you could do
Unlucky. I
so,
hate ongoing cards.
so you could do something like for example on using Stardust offensively, you could play like a Sentry without getting the Void. And you can also, shut down friendly
The
neighborhood
entirety.
Denish's entire deck. So uh,
No Jubilee,
No
no
blink.
Blink, no Hela, no Ghost Rider, no Doctor Doom. I can't even like cheese out old ramp points. I just get nothing.
Uh,
It's gonna be awesome.
and you gotta
I
Look,
can't
wait,
wait.
and you have
luckily
to
for
wait
you, Danish, it's
21
ongoing
days.
because I was planning on running that shit.
Mm,
How long is it until Cosmic Ghost Rider? 21
20
days. Something like
days.
that.
21 days
Oh
to
my god.
Cosmic Ghost Rider, which
I'll pr-
I think
Wait,
it's a pretty
Cosmic
cool
Ghost Rider?
card.
No, Stardust, right? Are you looking at the
No,
wrong card?
20 days until Stardust, and then 41 total. It's 21 between the two. So it's 41 days until Cosmic Ghost
Well,
Rider. For the listeners, Cosmic Ghost Rider is a 5/7 with the unrevealed text. Remove the text from front row enemy cards here. So it is essentially a red guardian that does not afflict but hits both cards in the front row.
that's my kind of card.
I'm very excited for that card. That
I
looks like
love removing text.
hmm You sure do.
Anyways, back to the Surfer V-Hand conversation. I actually think that Surfer is slightly better positioned than V-Hand in the current metagame, just because V-Hand, it's very hard, at least in the Infinity Ultron build. Maybe another build is slightly better right now. But I think in the Infinity Ultron build, it is very, very hard to fit in another tech card other than Shadow King. For the reason that the flex slot is Anti-Venom. And Anti-Venom does one thing which you should do in that flex slot, and it is make it so that your hand is more easily thinned because you are filling up your hand a lot in that deck. And adding another tech card does not necessarily do that. I think that by having Shadow King, you're already countering a lot of the stuff in the metagame, so we didn't really need a second tech card. But if we do get to a point where Vihen does need to run a second tech card, I don't think Infinity Ultron builds are going to be the best builds of Vihen because just that list is really tight.
Yeah, I think we have enough tech, honestly, already, because you have the Shadow King, but also you've got Luna Snow to deal with the Human Torch. Because if you have it double early, it loses its ability to double your buffs. So you can play a Luna Snow to clog the Human Torch lane. Or even if they have a really big Brood, let's say it's a 3/10, if you play a Luna Snow, that's 10 power off the Brood. If the lane is like full enough, which
Yeah.
I mean,
Would you get? There's a couple of other buff cards I think that also are coming out next month that I do want to reference just in general to like the buff archetype. I knew we were talking about Gwenpool. I know we mentioned Fastos earlier. So there are two cards that I think are very important for this next month. The first one is Frankie Ray, who is I believe a 3/4 that has the text after the next time you play a 6 cost card, double this card's power. So something like a Mysterio, a Mockingbird Sasquatch build could be very, very strong with that. And the second one, the one I think is much more interesting, is the Fallen one, who releases on August 19th. He is a 5/5 with the on reveal text, set your max energy equal to this card's power, which I think can get very out of control very quickly. And I don't know if I would say I'm excited to see how that plays out, but I sort of say this as a segue into what do you guys think buffs are going to do? You think buff decks are really going to define the future metagames of Snap this summer?
I think freaking okay. First of all, Frankie Ray Keck W. I think the Fallen one is actually an interesting deck building choice, but buff decks are gonna probably be really meta, just because buff cards generally are also buffing tech cards, right? It's like okay, like what deck buffs Shang-Chi? Well, a deck that lets Shang-Chi be played for like more power buffs Shang-Chi. Like you don't see Soren decks like slotting in Shang-Chi because you don't see Hela slotting in Shang-Chi. I know Denish, you probably have tried it a few times, but like the way your deck is built isn't supportive of like slotting in that 4/3 understated card. But once you start like buffing everything else in your deck, essentially the higher power your deck gets to be, the less of an opportunity cost it is for you to play these tech cards. Like I'm pretty sure like the Gwenpool deck that's playing a freaking 3/12 Brood on average doesn't care that it's playing Shang-Chi, you'll just have more power than them anyway. Because what I found is even with my Alioth decks, even when I deny the Shang-Chi, when I deny the powerful tech card, I'm just losing the other lane to random buffs. And that feels really bad.
yeah. The 220s, the 330s, it's just too big. It's too big to deal with, and like, you don't really have a way to deal with it. Because Shang does win a lane, but you can't really Shang twice. And if you do, you're not playing a deck anymore, you're playing a tech pile. And so it's really hard for homebrew decks to deal with these ridiculously overstated cards. Because, like, what are you gonna do? I just got my She-Hulk, man. Like, I'm just playing Sasquatch. I'm playing a 4/10.
Yeah, I definitely think with all these buff decks and these new cards like Human Torch that are better at using the buffs, I think the devs should really probably look at Gwenpool again. That card has been in its release state for over a year now, but I think now it's one of the best cards in the game. It sort of enables all of the buff stuff. I mean, I believe the top Surfer decks have really started swapping out Galacta for the Gwenpool just because of one, unpredictability and cube equity, and number two, just because Gwenpool is more stats and you're more often realizing all your stats in those games. So I think that Gwenpool might need to be reconsidered from a balance perspective because I do think that these buff decks are a little bit out of control. And I definitely do think they warrant a nerf in the sense that I think the point ceiling might be a little bit too high. But then again, with the speculated OTA, I mean, the main contender against the buff decks is also getting a buff. So maybe they're going with this don't really nerf, maybe they're going with this buff over nerf mentality and maybe nerf the attack, buff the combo. So I can also see Gwenpool not catching a nerf if that is the case.
I feel like one of the bigger problems though is like as more cards are released, the small cards get better and the big cards get worse. Like you're not incentivized to play six costs, right? Like I'm barely getting to play Eliath, and there was a time where like Eliath was like the end all be all. Like that's the six drop to drop down and the game's over. But now like I don't even feel good about Eliathing a lane. I like to like drop my Eliath and pray. Sometimes I drop my Eliath and a Scar, and I'm still praying that their buffs don't go over. Cause like the current problem here is that like if they play Fantastic on two, Bastos on three, on turn six, they could have up to four Fantastic buffs and then three Fastos buffs, and then they play Gwenpool, that's another three buffs. That's 10 plus twos in their hand. You could have up to 10 plus twos. And no matter like how good of a player you are or how like mentally acute you are, you cannot account for all 10 plus twos. Because you can't also see like when a card is like fantastic discounted, it doesn't show when you click on the card. So like at the end of the day, like you're playing around like so much invisible power. It's ridiculous. It's up to plus 20. Like what deck is competing with that?
Yeah, and I like what you said about the big guys getting worse as time goes on, because the way that I think about it is when the numbers are lower and your three costs are similar, like two three costs is similar to one six cost, or even three costs, it's a lot easier to win a lane with a six drop. But the issue is, as you're buffing the smaller cards, even if you scale the bigger cards with it, the smaller cards, it's a lot easier to go for three lanes than with the big guys. Whereas a Magneto used to be able to steal games, it feels like Magneto doesn't do anything before. When you play a Magneto, you're pulling a 320 into the Magneto lane, and like then they brood in another lane, and you lose anyways. A lot of these really big guys, even in Hela, it's just like it's gotten to the point where I only play my six drops for power now. Like, I'm running Gore, Infinite, and Eliath. The Eliath is only there because people started playing BP Zola, and I don't want to deal with that crap. But, like, if I wasn't running Eliath, I'd probably be running Giganto, to be honest. Just because it doesn't feel like these smaller, more techy big guys are even close to enough anymore. Especially with all the, I don't want to say power creep, but scaling of these low-cost cards. It's scary for big guy enjoyers.
Yeah.
It's tough out here.
So two things here. First of all, we will be discussing sort of power creep in at least Mr. Fantastic later in the podcast. And second of all, does this mean that we would like to see the lower cost scalers nerfed like Torch? Or would we like to see the higher cost cards buffed? Like Infinite becomes a 625 now.
It's
You can't really touch core because of the negative interaction, but basically, would we like to see the power increase, like a massive power increase across the board on fives and six cost cards? Or would we rather see these lower cost scalars get nerfed so that 20 power is still a significant amount? Because, I mean, I've had torches that pass 20 power, and if my three cost is getting bigger than the infinite by doing my normal surfer game plan, I think we might need to shift in one direction or another, because I think the current state of how large these early scalers are getting is not really healthy, even when I'm not fully investing in the game plan. I mean, I get something like Move making a 64 power normal torch because it's invested his entire game plan into moving that torch and buffing that torch. But I mean, Surfer getting a 26 power torch for steps by just playing his normal game plan, I think is a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah, so the issue with going at the route of the 6 drops getting better, so like a 625 Infinite, is as you go higher and higher, you're going to proportionately have the 3s get closer anyways. If I'm playing a 625 and instead of playing like a 315, you're playing a so it would be 315 to my 620, and that would be like old Surfer Brood was usually like 15 power, right? And now you're playing, I don't know, 21. You got a 6 power buff. We give me a 5 power buff. We are now proportionally like I it's instead of 3/4 of my power, you have 4/5 of my power. And so because you have more components, it's not actually helping. And also the issue with nerfing the cards is, well, I don't think each individual card really needs to be nerfed. I don't think anything in a vacuum is really a problem. I don't think Human Torch is that broken. I think, okay, well, I do actually think Carter is a little broken, but that's just because it's just Brood again. But, like, the issue isn't that you are. Each individual card is fine, except maybe like a Gwenpool, but all of them together is too much. And so the only way I can really think to fix that is to give better synergies for these high cost decks. Where it's like, okay, now you're doing this thing that's equally harder than it used to be, and then you get that proportional boost where, oh look, sure your Infinite's only 20, but you get 3 of them. Or something like that. And I don't know how you design a card like that. That's for the balance team to figure out and the design team. But you can't just buff the cards and nerf the cards because you're going to just run out of design space. Or you're going to get proportionally power corrupt anyways. Because the amount of effort I'm putting in is only going to increase basically as my numbers go up.
Yeah, I think also like I think second dinner should take a lot more careful hand when they're releasing these generic like green power buffing cards because when you think about like the cards that you want to buff with Mr. Fantastic, right? If it's one energy or two power, it's just better on lower cost cards. Like if you're reducing the cost of a two cost by one power, right? Or one energy, it's becoming like 50% like more efficient, right? Like if you go from like a 2/6 to a 1/6, that's insane. The alternative is also like you're going from a 2/6 to a 2/8. That card becomes like 25% better. Versus like if you're giving +2 power to an Infinite, like that's only 10% better. And like when I'm playing Goliath in my like Sauron deck with Mr. Fantastic, I really only want to get the energy reduction. I never want to get the power buff because the power buff is very minuscule. So it's just like these low power decks use both aspects of the Fantastic buff better. And every time they release a card that just states like make your other cards better by X power or X energy, lower cost cards will always benefit more than higher cost cards will. So you have to like generally release a card that synergizes with higher cost cards, like with payoff. I think like one of the good examples is like Surtur, but like Surtur Ares, like those cards reward you for playing higher cost cards, but they're really like limited on like those cards are 3 or 4 costs. There's no like 2 or 1 cost that really like support your game plan. I think Denish, you've experienced the same thing when you're playing like Hela. You struggle to find turn one, turn two plays that actually like are meaningful to your overall game plan. I think it's the same thing for Sauron.
Hmm. Yeah, and I want to touch on especially you said you mentioned Ares. 4 cost cards and up are just much harder to get value out of because you have with when you're playing a 1, a 2, or a 3, you have the flexibility of if you whiff on draw, you can play it with another 3 on the last turn. Whereas with 4s, you need to rely on Zabu, which if the OTA leaks that I've seen are correct, won't be happening for very much longer. And relying on Zabu, it just becomes so much more draw dependent as well. And we're at the point now where it's definitely not worth it. Like, I don't really care that my Ares is a 312 instead of a 412, because your Human Torch is still a 318. Like, it's still, yeah, it's
Yeah,
really hard to fix that issue,
yeah,
to
and
be
it's like the
honest.
payoffs need to be better, right? Like when I get to play my 312 Ares, the only thing I'm thinking about is okay, if I can play a 10 power card on turn 3, my scar might go down to 1 cost, right? And it's like, okay, that's the payoff. Like I have to justify so many cards to like be like, okay, like in order for me to make these cards meaningful, I need to be able to play a free Scar and an Goliath on turn 6, and I have to build my deck around that high roll, and that just feels like too much of an ask.
Yeah, what's funny is you could probably put Scar in a Surfer deck right now. That's probably a thing that'll work. You just play the Brood on 5. Now it costs 1.
I
Honestly,
mean,
yeah, you could.
the brute isn't really getting to 10 base that often. Maybe after a surfer on a really high roll. Or,
Okay, you ramp 1 energy and then play Brood Surfer or Forge Brood.
Yeah, you play
well,
a Luna
you
Snow
need the
version of the
brute
deck.
to catch 3 buffs, which is a little bit difficult. But I digress. I do agree with the point that top end might need more synergy pieces. I'm just gonna give the example. I have been playing quite a bit of Tribunal lately, and I think Tribunal is a very oddly extremely well positioned deck right now, especially with the upcoming OTA league. People are going to be playing less Enchantress with less Zabu in the metagame. So,
Yeah, tell that to the sword.
therefore, I think that if we're in a points contest, nothing can go toe to toe with Tribunal. And if it's just a points measuring contest,
Well,
Tribunal has also gotten new tools in like Jennifer Kale and Esme. So one of my favorite new lines in Tribunal is if you play Jennifer Kale on 2, you activate her, and then you play Esme, you get a 3 cost copy in your hand, and you can blink the Esme on 4, so you can guaranteed get a part of your combo on basically turn 4, as well as having a 3/4 of another card in your deck. And in that deck, if you hit either your basically anything in your combo, if you make that a 3/4 in your hand, you are very much high rolling, and it's very likely that you're going to be winning the game. I think that decks like Tribunal, I think, is where the metagame might start to shift as a counter to all the Surfer stuff. I think obviously the Victoria Hand Shadow King stuff is very well positioned as well, and I think that could do it. But if you're looking for something that just goes over, I can definitely see stuff like Tribunal being good, because Tribunal even goes over negative, which is something that pretty much no other deck can do. So I think that I would start looking at Tribunal as more of a deck again if we're going to be doing that. I mean, we talk about synergy pieces, sort of. Tribunal's been getting them. It got Prodigy, which is an excellent synergy piece in Tribunal. It got Esme, which is also an excellent synergy piece. It got Kale, which is something that that deck wanted. It's getting Mr. Fantastic, which is something that that deck wanted. I think if you're looking for the like high curve, like high cost combo deck that's getting these synergy pieces, it is Tribunal. And I think Tribunal's the best it's been positioned in over a year now.
yeah, you know how you need a Surfer nerf? You know you need a Surfer nerf when I can say Surfer actually does go over Tribunal usually. Tribunal can high roll and go over Surfer, but Surfer's mid rolls beat Tribunal's mid rolls.
Not
Surfer's low
really.
rolls beat Tribunal's low rolls. Like, if you're high rolling, whatever, good job. And also negative. I feel like Surfer kind of beats negative except for the high rolls, where both of those things you shouldn't be able to say.
Well,
Like, Surfer shouldn't be going, especially if it's running any tech at all. You should not be outscaling Tribunal.
I
I
think
just think it's ridiculous. That's
I
all.
think the Tribunal thing with Prodigy, Tribunal's mid rolls now go to the top. Tribunal's mid roll now is probably about like 35 in every lane. The mid roll would probably be double Iron Man in the onslaught lane instead of double onslaught. I think that's still very powerful, and I do think that you're
Um,
underestimating the deck a little bit. I definitely can see Surfer going over a negative mid roll if Surfer's high rolling, which is scary because a Surfer high roll is much more likely than a negative high roll, I think. Just because negative, you really need all the pieces to go together to really be high rolling. Whereas Surfer, you just kind of need a few buffs to go your way and you're high rolling. So I definitely think Surfer's in a bit of a dangerous position when it comes to these combo decks.
I
Well,
don't. Sorry, real quick. I don't think 35 is a mid roll. I haven't played much Tribunal recently, but I've played against Hela Enjoyer, and I've seen what his mid rolls look like because he doesn't have fear of tech against me. And it's like 26 or 27 usually. 35 is a bit high. It's Iron Man Onslaught. That's the mid roll, and then you don't get a mistake. That's the low roll part is not drawing mistake. Sorry, not low roll, mid roll.
yeah, I mean, so I think my take here is that it's the easier it is for a deck to get prio, the weaker it should be, just in general. Like, whenever Sarah Tech is, like, face of the meta, I'm not really complaining because they can get prio, right? I think proactive tech is way more toxic than reactive tech in the terms of just Cosmo and Juggernaut. It's just way easier for Surfer to do those two things. And I'm just, like, thinking, oh, yeah, you're playing Tribunal? Like, Juggernaut half the time cuts your power, like, in half. And the thing is, they're always going to be able to Juggernaut you. Like, very rarely will a Tribunal deck have power, right? Same thing with, like, Negative. Like, Negative never has Prio. So if you build your deck correctly, it's very easy to interact proactively against Negative. You can play Alliance, you can play Cosmo, you can play Jug, you can shut off their magic. Like, the hard part is when a good deck is easily able to get Prio, all of a sudden, like, that deck becomes way harder to deal with because the prio, the tech that you get to play when you have prio is Cosmo Jug, and Cosmo Jug is basically denying your opponent their game plan.
Yeah, it's like the tech for tech almost.
Mhm.
Your Cosmo Jug is really good into that. Um, okay, so morally, we're allowed to talk about Kid Omega now because he's released, right? Is that
Yep.
how that works?
Yeah.
Yep.
I've played against some Kid Omega today. Bro, I am not happy with that deck at all. It's like BP Zola if it had alt lines. Which, I mean, I'm happy for any Black Panther Zola enjoyers, but, like, I shouldn't. What's my issue with it? Let's say.
Your issue
My
is you're not
problem.
running a Cosmo Jug deck, man. Like, if you were
Yeah,
running a Cosmo Jug deck, they'd be dead in the water.
yep. Cosmo Jug kills them. But they don't die to a lot of tech that they should. Like Shang doesn't hurt them really, because they're planning on reviving those cards anyways.
Shadow King doesn't hurt them very well unless you also run Cosmo Jug. Like, when I was trying
Yeah,
to beat them with Shadow King, it was because I was playing Shadow King Cosmo Jug. Like, three cards in my deck are dedicated to freaking, like, these awkward matchups.
because you Shadow King a 12 power Nimrod, and then suddenly it's a 6 power Nimrod, and you played at a 4.3 energy deficit, and like you're still losing the lane. Or you'll hit like a Black Panther, and it was a 20 power Black Panther, but now it's a 5 power Black Panther. Or you'll hit Kid Omega, and that's like actually a good hit, but then they have a Black Panther in the other lane.
I mean,
So
you
it's
hit Kid Omega and it was just
still
a two
winning.
cost anyway. Like, they can still win the
Yep.
game.
Yes. And they played it early. They played it on 2. So it's like, okay, you disabled half of my 2-2. My 2-1. It's so hard to deal with him. I think especially because I miss tech cards. I'll say it. I miss tech slop as a Hela player. I want it back. That's my rant.
Yeah,
I
I
want tech slop
as a
back.
V-Hand and Surfer player, I definitely don't want it back. I also think it's very interesting that they nerfed Red Guardian right before the 2-1 with the crazy text came out. That seems a little bit ridiculous. But I do think the Kid Omega stuff is strong. But I would put it in the sense that it's a strong deck. Kid Omega is a strong card. We all knew this. I just think it's probably a little bit overplayed right now. If you have a deck like that farms this Kid Omega stuff, I would definitely play it right now because there is going to
You
be
mean
a lot of Kid
Surfer?
Omega today. Um,
Yeah, but server farms
Surfer
everything.
kind of
That's not the
farms.
thing.
Surfer kind of farms most things right now, for being honest. But I do think that the way sort of the metagame is trending into this like all combo less tech approach, I definitely think Kid Omega stuff is definitely going to have a place in the metagame. Just being able to blow up a 12 power Nimrod is almost an instant win, just because of how much that snowballs your entire game plan. Being able to have two of those going into turn 6 as opposed to one of those, and you can sort of destroy both of those instead of just dying to a single Jug or a Cosmo. Even though you're not great against Jug and Cosmo, but you can still beat it if you have the crazy lines. I think that Kid Omega is a card that I wanted to see released. Unfortunately, the general player base mostly could not get it because of the method it was released in. But I do think that I'm happy that Kid Omega is out to the player base, but I don't know if I'm happy about seeing Nimrod in most of my games for the rest of the day.
Honestly, I might join them. I might just do the Nimrod stuff.
Come on, dude.
Unhelpful Yoda, he's been just playing it and he's like admitted in Twitch chat. Like it's not he's not even doing good. He's just freaking like abusing the deck that like people can't really like. The problem is like we were talking about tech being OP the last pod. I think we're in a state where tech is not good enough now. Which is crazy. In,
Human
like the span
Torch
of a
really
week.
changed everything, huh?
I think
Fantastic.
it's
Fantastic.
fantastic. I think tech is useless when you can't predict how much power they have. It's actually just criminal, I think.
And what's funny is I don't even think Fantastic's broken. I just think it broke like a wall, where
It's
like,
just one too
okay,
many.
I could play tech cards, or I could triple all my buffs, and then it's like okay, so nobody's running tech cards anymore, so it kind of snowballs in a sense. Where okay, if no one's running tech balls anymore, I'm gonna play Nimrod, and then it's the. I don't even think I like having tech in the meta. I just think the complete lack of it is awful, and that's what I miss. Is just it being there, but not necessarily against me. This is the reason you don't nerf Shang. Like this is what all the top players always say. Don't nerf Shang. This is what's happening. Yeah.
But like Shane doesn't even do anything right now. Like the thing is like everyone runs Shane still. He's not good into the face of the meta. The only person suffering for it is me. Like, why are these cards like why are they still running Shang-Chi, man? Like it's just I'm the one Thoron player on ladder, and I'm just getting Shang-Chi'd every other game. Like, fuck.
I mean, you're right. I don't think Shang was the exact example I meant to give, because they're buffing all the 9 power cards. Like Cerebro is now 36 power. It goes 9999. I don't think people should be running Shang, to be honest. But what I'm saying is once you nerf a tech card, like the Guardian or Shang, then everyone's going to be like, oh, Thanos point slam 10 power cards into Scar. Where
Yeah.
it's like, I don't want to play against that.
But the other problem is just like these buff decks are not 12 card decks. They're like 9 card decks. So like it doesn't matter if they're running like even if it's objectively bad to run Shang, it doesn't matter if they are running Shang or not, because the rest of their deck just gets plus 20 in buffs. I'm pretty sure like we can just go plus Fantastic plus Fastos plus Gwenpool and you just BS some games.
Yeah. It's. I am not a fan of. You know what I've been doing? I think I told you guys. I've been playing Clash Royale instead of Marvel Snap in my free time, and that's how you know I don't like the meta.
Wait,
It's,
you know what my
it's
hot take
tough.
is? I think we should try this. Everyone should start playing Master Mold decks, so that way the Fantastic buffs just like don't go anywhere. Like that's my new hot take. I've been thinking about putting Master Mold in like half my decks and just being like,
On a 2 cost.
I mean, if our two costs don't do anything anyway, Denish, Master Mold, go.
Hit the Sentinel, not the Brood there.
Dude, I'd rather them hit the freaking Sentinel. I'll give them 4 Sentinels to hit at this point. Like,
Honestly, yeah, because then they're playing their Sentinels. I'm okay with that.
yeah, so I think the next plan is to cook the Master Mold deck. Because Derek already has that Sugi Ronin deck. So, like, Sugi, Master Mold, Misery, like, you know, how bad could it be?
Yeah, Suki's good too.
I think how
Good
bad.
cards there.
Yeah, I think how bad can it be is a very funny statement. But speaking about the 2 costs and sort of building around them with Fantastic and all, I'm just going to do a quick aside where I'm going to read every 2 cost card released this year, all the hits and the misses, and we're all gonna sort of hear the list and really see how we feel about two cost cards because I'll leave my opinion to the end. I'm just gonna read the list now, starting from January. In January, we got Iron Patriot and Victoria Hand. In February, we got Sam Wilson, Joaquin Torres, Thaddeus Ross, and Gorgon. In March, we got Firehair. In March we got Firehair. In April we got Goliath, Strange Supreme, and Toxie. In May we got Surge, Elixir, and Zorn. In June we got Merlin, Kale, Mercury, Kid Omega, and Cobra. And in July we have gotten Mr. Fantastic and Herbie. So I'm just quickly going to say my thoughts here. I think the two costs have been insanely power crept. I mean, let's just look at the hits this year. We've had Iron Patriot, Victoria Hand, Sam Wilson. Firehair's looking more promising now, but I don't think it's a hit. Goliath, Strange Supreme, Surge, Merlin, Mr. Fantastic, Herbie, and for the limited time event cards, Mercury and Kid Omega are absolutely hits, and I could argue Gorgon, because Gorgon did see a lot of play at one point, and it does right now in Cerebro 3. But I think that the two cost cards, we have seen so many powerful two cost cards released this year, and let's just compare that to the six costs. We've got Isan as a six cost this year. We had Conchu as a six cost this year. We had Dormammu as a seven cost this year, although it costs about 4 energy to get him. And this season, we have no six costs. We have barely seen any cards released at the six cost or higher stat line. If we even go back to five costs right now, the first five cost released this year was Agamotto. The next one was Infinity Ultron. And the next five costs is Think First Steps. So
Yeah, Hellions in there too somewhere, right?
and Hellion as
Yeah.
well.
Hellions, I mean, they're pretty good. Like, I'm not gonna lie.
Fives are
The
really good.
fives
The
are
fives are
good.
really good.
So the fives are definitely good, but we've only gotten 4 of them. And you heard how many two cost cards I read. The fives are good this year, and I've been greatly enjoying them. I love Agamotto as a card, and I love Infinity Ultron. It's probably my favorite card in the game right now. I really like the direction they're taking with fives, but I think they're, in a sense, are they printing too many twos? And are the twos they're printing a little bit too good? Mr. Fantastic, I mean, we've all talked about him throughout the pod. Denish doesn't think he's busted. I know I think the card is busted. I think it's the best card in the game right now. I think it's a little bit ridiculous what that card is enabling. But, yeah, I'd be inclined to hear your guys' thoughts on this.
Okay,
Hold on real quick. I
Yeah.
like that Smiz is a big fan of 5-cost cards this recently, because you know what they're doing? They're giving them 2-cost cards. Half of the 5-costs that have released are just adding 2 costs to your hand. You're getting Winds of Watum, you're getting IU Stones. I see what you're doing, Smiz. You just like 2 costs.
I liked that you when it gave 3 cost stones too. Don't forget.
Oh yeah, because they're the surfer cards.
Oh, because
Thoughts?
you're surfer cards.
Because they're gonna pull my 620 infant on. It's awesome and fun and
Yeah,
epic.
fake fan.
Yeah, sure.
Oh,
Not
you
pretending to
like
be a
the-
Hela player.
You like the 323, huh? Oh, where'd that come from? Where'd it go, huh?
Oh, I got it back. It's Torch now.
Yeah, you remove my 323 and give it to Kyle. That's a 323 that should be in the game, by the way. One where you have to play a 5-cost to enable it. But I'll let Xenaid touch up on what he thinks about 5-costs.
Bro, yeah, these I think the 5 costs, like, the problem is, like, when they're releasing new cards, they want people to play them, right? And they want people to buy them. This is like my conspiracy theory-esque brain hack going on. But it's easier to make a generic 2 than it is to make a generic 5. I feel like when a 5 cost card gets released, like, it's very easy to skip on stuff like Hellion. Even like Legion when it first came out, right? Like, it's like no one's really excited about 5 costs. I think, like, unless, like, it's hard to just slot in a 5 cost. Whereas, like, right now, like, every deck can slot in a Gorgon, every deck can slot in a Fantastic, every deck can slot in a Surge. Like, you can, like, replace any card with one of those, and, like, it doesn't make your deck significantly worse. Because the thing about a 2 cost is you can always play it. Like, past turn 2, you can always play it.
Yeah, I think I want to push back a little. I mean, you're right, honestly, when you say no one's excited for 5-costs. I think that's true. The general player base isn't, but that's their problem. Like, IU on release was very, very cool once they buffed him. And when they didn't, he was still fine. Like current IU is fine, and I can run it in a ramp deck, and it'll be functional. Like that's a really cool card. Agamotto is a really cool card. Hellion is really cool. The thing First Steps is generic, but and I mean I'm not excited for it, but I'm sure someone is. That's not a good example, but Legion is another one where I think it's the issue is it's almost it's once again snowballing where it's like, oh, I love 2-cost cards because they're all super strong. Oh, I'm so excited that we're getting another 2-cost card that's strong. Whereas people are excited about it because they're strong. If you just give us stronger fives, like isn't Ronin a 519?
Yeah, he's a
Like
pretty good 5 right now, to be honest.
the 519, 19. That's literally like +4 on Brood, and
Bro,
he's 19.
and then there's Red Skull, who's a 5'6".
Yeah, Red Skull is a 5'6". That
Red
turns
Skull is
into a
disrupting
five.
Cerebro, though.
He turns into a 5'14" when you take the ability off, and then they made Giganto a 6'16".
Wait,
So
Denish,
it's
Red Skull isn't the
what are we
5'14",
doing?
it's the 0. The 0 is the one,
Oh right,
the 111.
right, because the 0, sure, that's some heart of the cards math right there. Yeah. I think if 5 costs were better, people would be more excited to get 5 costs, but they're not. They
Yeah, in
keep
the leaked
nerfing them.
OTA, they're not touching a single cost card more than 4. I say like send it. Put Arrow back to 510. Like like send that shit. Like honestly, like Red Skull make him like a 518. Like, you know?
I don't know about
Who-
Hell, I
518.
don't
That
know about
518 sounds a
518.
little bit strong.
I don't think so, you know? But you know.
Anyways,
But like
I would like to touch on fives a little bit more.
just
Because
make
I
all
think
the
they're-
5 Shang-Chi-able at this point. Like I don't care because you know like if they have to Shang-Chi the 5 lane, they can't Shang-Chi another lane. Like
Yes! I have no problem with you Shang-Chiing my 5.
these
I
people were
don't
saying like
care.
5'9". I wish it was a 5'9". I don't care, man. Like just give me more power.
Yep.
I
Exactly.
definitely think that the direction you're taking with 5 costs is interesting because I think that other than Thing First Steps, which it's a little generic, and I think that's their attempt at making a generic 5, and I don't really like it. I'm not really excited for it, as the same as Denish. But I think the direction they're taking with 5s in general is really, really cool this year. But I also think it's a little bit of a design thing in that fives are way harder to design than Mr. Fantastic's First Steps. All they had to do with Mr. Fantastic's First Steps was make Fastos' text in hand. And Fastos was a card they designed over a year ago. So I don't think that necessarily that's a hard card to design. I think that even like something like a Herbie, oh, it's Nico Minoru, but activate. Even if we look at the other 5 costs, Merlin's a little bit unique. Zorn is, oh, what if we had a card that just, what if we had Asteroid M, but reverse? That seems pretty cool. Stuff like that. It seems like twos are more easy to design. Obviously, we still get some greatly designed twos. I think Sam Wilson is a phenomenally designed card. I think that cards like Herbie are also great design. I think that it might be just a little bit of a design thing where fives are way harder to design because you really need the game swinging impact to make a 5 cost really worth it in your deck. It's why I think Cosmic Ghost Rider will only be good in ramp decks. He's not just going to be a generic 5. He's going to be good in ramp decks that normally can't afford to run much tech. He's just going to be a 5 cost amazing tech card because he's a really solid body at 7 power, and he also shuts down some pretty important stuff like maybe a Human Torch or a Captain Carter for in a Surfer deck, which I know we've been talking about a lot on this pod.
I think
I
though, like 5 costs should be like something that you're forced to think about and answer when your opponent plays one. So like I think a good example of a well-designed 5 cost is Iron Man. If your opponent puts an Iron Man on the board, you have to think so much about how they're gonna follow it up, right? Another like well example one is like Claw, Prof X, like even Black Panther in the state it is with the Kiddo stuff. Like these are cards they have to answer, right? Versus like some of the worst ones are like Spider-Man 2099. They could have done so many things to make this card better, but like he's there, like he exists. He's a card, I guess. Like I feel like you should have to like play around 5 drops. Like I think another well-designed one is like Valkyrie. Like as soon as like C3 becomes meta, I have to start thinking about that card. Hobgoblin, like But then there's like just a lot of fives that are like non-factors right now, um, and I think they could just buff them a little to like make the design space better.
Yeah, I also want to call bullshit a little on twos being easier to design than fives. I'm gonna design a five right now off the top of my head. Ready? Make it a 5/6, and it says any card either player plays here moves away. If it can't move, afflict it with -2. Boom! I made a 5 cost. That's a card I would genuinely play. That's a cool card. It's a move synergy. It's a 5 cost that can ramp up to like 10. It's a control card. That's a cool card. It wasn't hard to make a cool card. I can't see that being broken, but that's a card that can synergize with like Storm. That wasn't hard at all. They're just not doing it.
Yeah, you want to be a
It's
cool
not
five
hard.
cost? A 5 cost Sarah that only affects cards with 10 or more power. That'd be kind of dope, no? Like
Afflicted
it's
by
Sarah,
3.
but for only 10 or more power. I would play that card.
Would that be a
It makes it
5/10?
cost 3 less.
I mean, it could be a 5/5, and I would still play it. Like
Wait,
a 5/5 that
Sarah
discounts
minus
all
two
like
cost?
it would be an on reveal, discounts all cards next turn with more than 10 power. It could be for both opponents. I wouldn't even care.
Afflicted
Like
by 2. You can afflict it by 2 with that text for all. Like that would be fine.
like it would be interesting, right? People would deck build around it because then you could play
Yeah.
like bigger cards, and it's like a synergy for big cards.
Do you know how scary that would make Wong? You would have to deal with Wong like immediately, every time.
Yeah.
Because if you do Wong into that, you have a bunch of 0/10s in your hand.
No, because they only reduce their cost by one. So like Starbrand would be like,
I think it would be balanced if it reduces by 2.
yeah, but I'm saying like
Fine.
these are interesting cards, right? Like these
Yeah.
like help archetypes be played. Like you know what needs a buff? Black Bolt Stature. Like give them back their power. Like I like seeing Black Bolt Stature.
Mm-hmm.
Hot take.
Black Bolt Stature's interesting. And also, it's a 5 cost that actually deals with late game 2 costs. That's crazy. Why are we nerfing that? like,
Because it's unfun for the player base.
Yeah, it's
Bro, I've
not
been trying to
fun.
do this.
Yeah,
I've been trying to do this Spider Ham Black Widow stuff. I'm like, I don't want my opponent to have cards. Like I've been really trying, but the cards are just too weak.
That is unfun for the player base, but that's different.
But that's fun for me.
Yeah, come
You're playing
on, Black
Spider-Ham.
Bolt. I really wanted to play my 1/9 Victoria hand. I'm so sad that I can't play it. Anyways, I do think that maybe fives are. You guys are shooting at ideas. I think fives. I might have misconstrued it. It's not necessarily hard to design, but it's hard to get the general player base to want. And in a game that's really driven by players buying the new card because it looks fun, it might be a little hard to convince them to get Denish's move card. I don't think it's going to be hard for them to get Xenaid's tens card because, as we know, the player base loves tens with Surtur. But I do think if you're making these 5 costs, even as you two said, it's in this hyper specific niche. They're not really general use cards in a sense. The most general use 5 cost I guess you can get is Sarah, but that's just like maybe an Iron Man, maybe a Legion, something
I
like
can't
that.
play
I guess
Sarah,
it's
man.
general use,
Yeah, it's Legion.
but you're
It's an
also
ongoing effect.
but you're also making like a significant like deck investment to wait to spend an entire turn 5 playing Legion. I mean, yes, it can swing you and win you the game, but also you might be able to. Oh, I don't have a Legionable location now. I just have this 5/7 in my deck when my opponent is playing this 3/23, which is a little ridiculous. But I do think that 5 costs in a sense are harder to design to sell. I don't know if it's harder to design as a whole. I might have misconstrued my words, but I think it's harder to design to sell a 5 cost because of the wide appeal. I mean, Mr. Fantastic is a season pass. You can honestly slap that card in whatever deck you want. It's going to be good. I mean, Herbie has a lot of versatility with the energy and also the buffs. I mean, Human Torch is a more narrow card, but it also sort of fits into the archetypes that a lot of people do play, which is the Gwenpool Galacta buff stuff. I think that designing a 5 that is likely to get a lot of hype is very hard. I mean, even Infinity Ultron, even when he was like on release, he wasn't hyped because people didn't. He wasn't working in the people's one specific deck. They didn't think to try him in Hela, even though he was really good there. They just thought about trying him in their one specific deck that had like 4 costs, and they were going to get power reality every time. I mean, I think that the way you're looking at the card really sort of the way you're sort of when the player base goes to expect a 5 cost, they expect it in a generic sense, in the sense that let's look at the 2 costs that are generic just quickly. Iron Patriot, Sam Wilson, Surge, Merlin, Mr. Fantastic, Herbie, and you could probably argue Mercury if there's a lot of move. But anyways, the generic 2 costs, there are so many of them. They didn't design a generic 5 cost this year. Like Agamotto is the most generic you can get because it enables you to run a lot of the generic
But
cards
you're
like
not scared of
Uncle,
Agamotto.
but
You're scared of images of Icon, man.
I don't really think that Agamotto is a generic card, and I think that just based on like they clearly the generic cards do sell. So I do think that we might start to see a world where we get less fives designed just because they're not really easy to sell the player base on.
But I think the oh, you go first, man. I have a
Okay.
longer take.
I was gonna say I think these players need to branch out. What do they only play one deck? Like, what are you doing? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, I can't imagine.
but I think the other problem with fives is like when a week comes with a 5 drop release, I'm not scared of it. Like I think the last time I was scared of a 5 drop release was Agamotto, but that's because he was running Icon and bolts and stuff like that. Like I'm not scared of the actual 5 drop.
Gwenpool.
Yeah, yeah, Gwenpool. But like, I think the problem is like 5 drops can only be played on like turn 5 or 6 or 4, right? Like on the week that a 5 drop releases, you should actually like we have to anticipate the opponent playing it. But like when the thing comes out, I'm not gonna anticipate the opponent putting down the thing on turn 5. I'm just gonna be like, okay, another Surfer game plan. Like I think they should be more like Sandman or Legion. Like when this card gets played, like it will have effects on the game. Like even when IU released, like no one was playing Gorgon to counter it. Like very few people were, and I feel like the release of a 5 drop should be impactful enough for the at least the metagame to care about it. Because like for example, whenever they release a 2 drop or a 3 drop, right? Like oh Merlin, all of a sudden Magic's gone. Like like all the cards, a lot of cards affect the metagame the week they're released. And it feels like with 5 drops, they don't really do that.
Yeah, where it might have gone off a cliff. I'm trying to think where it all went wrong. I think it was Lady Deathstrike. I think she messed it up for everyone else. They changed her and then said, all right, we're not making fives anymore. We made a 5 cost that you want to buff with Gwenpool and like buff cards that people are already playing, and people still didn't want her. Like I think that's where it all went wrong. I I do agree that it's harder for the player base to get into a 5 cost, but I think if you made a really strong one like they're doing with the 2 costs, people would still get into it.
Oh,
If you
I
made
think actually the Fallen one on August 19th, if you play Symbiote Spider Man into an empty lane, it adds now a new threat. If you play the Fallen one on top of it, you have 12 max energy.
yeah.
That sounds fun as fuck.
hmm For
Uh,
context, one more time, Fallen One is a 5/5 that says on reveal, add this card's or no, set your max energy to this card's power. And so if you play it on 5, it sets your energy to 5, which is normal. But if you play it on 4, you ramp by 1. And what Xenaid's saying is if you play it on 5 on a Symbiote Spider-Man, you get it set up to 12, which is quite a bit. If
Yeah,
you play it on
and you can
5
play.
or
I
3.
think that card like that's an impactful 5, right? That's like saying, oh, Mr. Fantastic's gonna be out. He's gonna be buffing your hand. All of a sudden, I have to play around 14 energy or 16 energy. Like, good luck, guys.
hmm That's a very impactful 5, for sure. That's one that I still don't think people will be excited for,
But
oh,
to
I
be
I'm,
honest.
but like, okay, people are boring. If it's a 5 drop that even you and I can't be excited for, Denish, then you know it's a problem. Because like we try to like, I try to play every bad card. Like if
Yeah.
I'm not excited about a card, like it's giga boring. Like this freaking Mister Human Torch, man, like so boring.
Yeah. I think it's really cool to play against, to be fair, Human Torch.
Oh yeah, like
But
I was trying to play White Widow to interact with it.
yeah.
Funnily, if only that card was playable, man.
Yeah, that doesn't work. It just destroys itself, right?
Yeah, it doesn't last till the end of the turn.
Yeah. I like Luna Snow for it. I've been messing with Smizz's V hand list.
yeah, I do think that it's funny how you mentioned if you give the people a good 5 drop, they'll experiment with it, and yet I'm still like in my Infinity Ultron corner. I have this like fresh like 5-star meal, and people still like as soon as when I share the deck with people, I get like, oh, Infinity Ultron is good now. That card is terrible. So I do think that even when they're printing these great fives, which I think Infinity Ultron is really really good, people are still like so down on it. And what I've also learned is that the more people play the deck, the more they come to like the IU in the deck. And when people just start the deck, they're thinking, "Oh, IU is he's okay, but he's not great." But as the people play it, they really start to like him.
I
I
mean,
think
it
that's
takes
a very
good
interesting
players to play
dynamic.
the like. It takes good players because like the other broken five that the people haven't caught on to is Blink, right?
Yeah,
Like
Oh
the three of
yeah.
us agree
Oh
that
my
Blink
god.
I
is
love Blank.
insane,
Yes.
but the
New
rest
variant, by
of
the way.
the rest of the players like don't understand like just how insane Blink is or how to deck build around it.
What's funny is I think the only way you can really find out how good a five is basically jump off and play it. Like even in the V hand list or the Hela list, the only way you could ever realize why Infinity Ultron is good is playing him, play his card down, and then see what he does. If it's a good 5-drop, when you play it, you'll feel the impact of you playing it. We don't have very many of those. We have Blink, we have IU, and we have Legion. I
Yeah,
think that's it.
I get into my like little
Hellion's
ramp
good. I like
phases.
Hellion.
Hellion.
Yeah, Denish like can vouch for this. Like I'm in his DMs like maybe like once a month because I'm like just on my Electro ramp BS, and I'm like Denish, what are the fives now? And I'm literally trying like every five. I'm like playing Spider Woman for God's sake.
Oh boy.
Like it's just not paying off.
All
Yeah.
right. So if you have to take one message from this podcast, it's probably that Danish misses tech slop, and if you have to take another message, it's that play more 5-drops. They are good, the good ones at least,
I
and
mean, play
we
five
really
drops. Do you
want
want to lose
them to
SP to me on
design more.
ladder,
How about release more 5-drops?
Release
That's
more as well. Yeah, play
bro?
them
Yeah,
so they get
release
released because I
King the
like them.
Conqueror. This big bad.
fix him, please. Why
Yeah.
is he still like that?
Bro, he's the OG big bad. He's so
It's
big and
not.
he's so
Yeah, he's
bad.
still a big
He's
bad.
so
What's it called?
big and he's so
Glenn
bad.
was playtesting a new version of him, so they are working, and he is getting a variant soon. So maybe we have good news coming soon, but we will see. All right, so that about wraps it up for us today in the third episode of 8 Cube Circus. I have been Smiles. We also have had Denish and his Hela ranting and yearning for Tech Slop to come back. And we've also had Xenaid with his Sarah but Soran suggestion, I
Hey,
guess.
it's a great card idea. I would
It's
buy the shit out of that card.
I'd buy that card.
alrighty. So I hope you had a good time listening. Make sure to subscribe to Snap Academy if you're watching on YouTube. And also make sure to let us know what you think of the podcast, anything you'd like to see more. I believe we should be coming back at you maybe later this week with a special preview for an upcoming tournament. We will see you all next time.